Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to discuss the astrological energies from November 2nd until November 9th. As Scorpio season continues forward, and we are in the middle of an eclipse sandwich. We are approaching the Taurus Lunar Eclipse on November 8th at 16 degrees of Taurus. We will be discussing that in today's show, as well as the overall themes of this week, which include a strong focus on the fixed signs. We have a lot happening right now as the Sun, Mercury, and Venus each move through Scorpio, and will be making significant aspects to Uranus, Saturn, and the North Node and South Node this week. So we'll be talking about those energies, what is coming up for us, what we're meant to be very aware of, how we're meant to stay in our power, our choices, our light, even as we move through these pivotal energies that are requiring transformation and evolution. We always move through energy portals during eclipse season. We can feel things moving within us as well as in the world at large. And we are supported by the universe to make these necessary changes in ourselves as we elevate our vibrations, raise our frequencies, and also have the support of moving in to new timelines. So timelines are new experiences of energy. And with eclipse season, there is evolutionary growth at hand. There's a lot we're meant to evolve to stay on a higher path of soul growth. And at this time on the planet, the energies are moving faster. There has certainly been an acceleration of time, of experiences, of energies. And that's why it's very crazy to look at the fact that it's already November. We are already in the 11th month of the year, and it has certainly been a very fast year. And that is related to how the energies have sped up and accelerated, and we are designed to keep pace with that accelerated frequency, as well as being the pace keepers, meaning we are also evolving. And so we have this ongoing relationship between our energy systems, our individual energy systems, our collective energy systems, and then what is happening on the planet and in the cosmos. So it's this ongoing dance of energies that we are feeling and experiencing in our own consciousness, while we also interact with other conscious energies. And it becomes even more elevated during eclipse season. So at this time, as we travel through an eclipse sandwich, there can be a pressure, a tension, even a feeling of being in a birthing canal of some sort, because the energies that are dominant right now are in the fixed signs. We have the Sun, Mercury, and Venus moving through Scorpio, and over this next week, each one of them will be making an exact conjunction to the South Node in Scorpio at 13 degrees. Venus will be conjunct the South Node November 3rd. The Sun will be conjunct the South Node November 6th, and then Mercury will be conjunct the South Node in Scorpio on November 7th. So this is a week of big release points, especially related to whatever came up for you during that Scorpio solar eclipse that occurred at 2 degrees of Scorpio on October 25th. Those planets were very heavily involved in that energy. And as they move forward now, the Scorpio energy is designed to let go in order for the evolution and the transformation to occur. So there are things happening this week that you're not meant to carry forward. You're not meant to do it the same way. There perhaps have been feelings within you, something happening internally that you've been processing, moving through, sitting with, and now you're understanding what needs to be purged and removed. And even if you're not quite clear on what that is exactly, the universe is going to show you. And the universe is in fact supporting this release and these completions. The South Node represents what we no longer need to take forward. Energies that have expired, that are overdue, anything that is no longer serving you. And with Venus going across this point, we are understanding what has been too emotionally heavy or perhaps fearful or disempowering, as Venus is about how we take care of ourselves in order to feel loved, to feel worthy, to feel strong in our self-confidence, and then how that impacts the relationships we create, how we connect with others, what we want in our lives that supports that vibration and that frequency. And we actually have an interesting story unfolding that begins with the planets making a conjunction to the South Node. So again, it's Sun, Venus, Mercury going through this similar pattern this week. They make a conjunction to the South Node, then they oppose Uranus in Taurus, then they square Saturn in Aquarius. And this happens 3 times this week, all in the fixed signs between 13 to 18 degrees. So what we have is a big focus point right now on these fixed energies, but the driving intention from the universe is an interesting dance between the nodes of fate and then something that's related to what you've been sitting with and moving through since 2021, because now each planet interacts with the Uranus-Saturn square. So let's break this down a bit. First of all, the focus is really on Scorpio energies in your chart. Between 13 and 18 degrees of Scorpio is the area of your life that you are evolving, perhaps to a point of discomfort. Perhaps it feels very emotional. All the fears are coming up. Everything is being triggered. You could feel like there's a lot happening within you, almost like there's this emotional storm or things that you're sitting with, contemplating, moving into deeply. The Scorpio energy signature requires us to truly understand what's happening within our own psyche and what has been driving us behind the scenes. What has been motivating you? What has been propelling you forward? Perhaps even understanding the fears or the unconscious emotions that have been driving you in the background. Scorpio wants us to make those parts of ourselves conscious, wants us to understand, oh, that's why I've been operating this way, or this is the fear behind the curtain that I've been trying to avoid or I've been wrestling with. Or perhaps you're looking at your own relationship with power, how you feel or don't feel powerful, how you have power dynamics with others, and perhaps there's even expressions of your own shadow that have been coming to light. The Scorpio energies want us to step into our power, to step into what makes us stronger and clearer vessels of the divine. But in order to do that, we venture down into those darker depths of our own being to tap into what is happening in here. What am I not seeing, or what have I not realized about myself? But now it's time to understand it. And for many people, it's understanding where you've given your power away unconsciously. It can be related to the deeper emotions or fears that you weren't aware of. You didn't know that's how you were showing up, or that's what was operating within you. And Scorpio gifts us with that understanding so that we can make the necessary choices in order to evolve ourselves and to let go of the older energies that aren't needed. Scorpio also relates to your soul's journey throughout multiple lifetimes and what you've accumulated through your soul's journey. And these can be things that you weren't aware of, that were connected to your energy, that have been imprinted on you, or that have influenced your self-expression, your self-love, understanding who you are in the world and how you're relating to others. And all of this can be messy. It can be uncomfortable. It can be triggering. There could be things in ourselves we don't want to see. Things in our shadow, things in our healing, things within us that can be difficult or painful to look at, but only at first. Almost like the anticipation of it can be worse than the actual realization. Or then the realization is meant to move you forward. So in Scorpio, we are meant to evolve, but you have to self-monitor if you're fixating on something, if you're overly fixating, which can be a trait of the fixed signs. And as I mentioned, we have very strong fixed sign energies this week, where we could feel a resistance to growth, a resistance to what the universe is supporting us in developing. We could feel stubborn. We could feel very much even stuck and not wanting to budge. The fixed signs are gifted at stabilizing and being consistent, but sometimes that also forms an over-attachment to a part of you that you're looking to grow forward, meaning you could be attached and in a comfort zone because of a fear of the unknown or uncertainty around what happens next. What happens if I'm not this version of myself anymore? What does it mean to perhaps go into new territory or a foreign energy expression that I've never been in? And this is where we can be stuck in a place that is ultimately limiting us. This is a week, this is a time to trust the divine like never before, to trust that you are being guided to move forward and to develop, even if it feels like you're in the middle of a dark tunnel, or if you're just overwhelmed or there's a lot happening that doesn't feel like it provides any stability right now. Basically, these planets in Scorpio, as well as the South Node, are entering into a longer-term conversation that's been happening with Uranus in Taurus, squaring Saturn in Aquarius, and now the universe is pushing us to let go of what's needed for the next phase, the next chapter, the road ahead. But there could be a part of you really struggling with this. You could just be saying, I don't want to. I don't want this part of my life to change. I don't want to let go of this. I'm afraid. I'm having fears coming up. I'm having a lot of emotional energy around these changes. It feels very big. And I don't even know if I'm going to like the changes that are happening. So there's this focal point of internal pressure. Now, I'm speaking about the general energies. And if you have a lot in your astrology chart in the fixed signs between 13 and 18 degrees, then this is working with you more personally. The fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, again, between 13 and 18 degrees. Now, that's where the energy is the tightest. It's where it's working with us deeply. If you do not have planets or points in the fixed signs, then you wouldn't be feeling this as intensely. In fact, it could be something that's just flowing for you. You're ready for the changes. You're ready for release. You've been doing what you need to let go of something. So this works on a spectrum of energies, which is true for all astrological signs and their expressions. But this is a time when the universe is actually preparing you for what's to come next that maybe you've been feeling or sensing. And even though the focal point of energy right now during Scorpio season is on the Scorpio parts of your chart, this is preparing you for what's to come, what's growing, building, and flourishing when the energies in Taurus really start to pick up even more. And we've already been feeling this. In fact, it doesn't feel like this is new. It could feel like this is something that you've already been moving through or struggling with. Maybe this is something you've already been resisting, or you've been really stubborn and you're like, I don't want to change this part of my life, or I don't feel ready. There could be many things, but if you look at it as the universe is benevolent, loving, and is supporting us in our divine growth, then that could help with a level of acceptance that brings you peace. And that's a key word here, is peace, because even though the Scorpio energies pull us into the rip currents and bring us down deep into something that maybe we're tossing and turning between, the other side of the energy is Taurus. And because we have a Taurus lunar eclipse exactly conjunct Uranus at 16 degrees of Taurus and working with the North Node in Taurus, that's the direction to go. That's the direction we're headed. And we've been working on this already. In fact, this eclipse point is an energy that Uranus and Taurus has already passed over previously this year, specifically in May and June, which was after the last set of eclipses. So whatever you're feeling could be something you've already been working through. It's already a known entity. It's already something that you're aware of. And now there is this deeper pressure to be very real with yourself, to dig into a truth, but it's a truth you've been feeling. It's what you've been feeling, whether that is something you've been feeling in your emotional body, in your heart chakra, in your intuition, in your body consciousness. It's a feeling that you're meant to trust, and you're meant to ultimately know that it's empowering you through the change, through the shifts and the evolution. So this is a week of ultimately setting yourself free from any type of internal struggle or fear that is holding you back. And we don't always know that in the moment. We don't always know what's holding us back. We don't always see or perhaps have that higher perspective. But there's something here that's going to lighten you up, lighten your load as you move towards the Taurus energies that want us to make something simple, to be at peace with a decision or a choice, to understand that sometimes for all the ways our worlds and our energies are complex, the Taurus energy is reminding us to ground in to what you really value right now. What is really important for you? What is essential? What is meaningful? And place your intention on that energy growing and developing. The energy of what you're releasing could also be strong because of, as I said, that Scorpio solar eclipse we just had. And it could be something that you've already been sensing is ready to change in your life. And I feel like what we are getting to the heart of is a new truth frequency. A new truth frequency that is ultimately designed to blast away those limitations, fear, pain, regret, challenges, even indecision. When you really tap into the truth of something you're feeling, you want, you desire, the universe then steps in to support that frequency, to support what needs to go. So this is a week when there could be 3 things that you're releasing. 3, because we have 3 planets moving across the South Node. First, it's Venus, then the Sun, then Mercury. And this is where there could be 3 things that you are transforming, that you are no longer giving energy towards, or you're realizing it's an energy leak, or it's disempowering, or it's just too heavy. There's so many ways this can show up. So after the planets interact with the South Node, then they have an opposition to Uranus at 17 and 16 degrees retrograde of Taurus. And because Uranus has already been here in your chart, this is an activation of something being liberated, an awakening, a sense of, oh my goodness, I feel lighter. I feel the energy has shifted. I feel a new freedom. I feel a sense of release. And the opposition from Uranus brings in a surprise, an awakening, something that is even disruptive or chaotic. And it's something outside of our own frequency that is meant to elevate us. Uranus holds the energy signature of cosmic wisdom, universal intelligence. And this is where if you don't let go of something, like if you're not really honoring this deeper internal process, then the universe could simply remove it. Something could be grabbed away, snatched away. It's just gone. And the universe is holding your frequency of authenticity. There's something that isn't meant to travel forward with you. So we have an opportunity to willingly allow it to leave, to say goodbye, perhaps do some type of beautiful ritual work. And then if we were to keep holding on to something, the universe would have another way of showing you that it's not really yours anymore. It doesn't really sync up with where you're going next and with your own unique frequency. So after the opposition to Uranus in Taurus, then the planets each have a square to Saturn in Aquarius at 18 degrees. And the square to Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn is holding the future direction, the future self, your commitments for the long term, your mature and responsible growth. Saturn is very much connected to the 3D realms, to what we have to take care of, where we are investing and using our wisdom responsibly. Saturn in Aquarius is also where we've been assessing our life path and where we go next, what is calling to you. And you could be feeling that calling of some sort where if your life has shifted into a new trajectory, you've changed jobs, or you've changed industries, you've moved to a new location, you're aware of what has needed to change for you in order to stay on course with your soul mission, your soul purpose, the individuals and people you're meant to connect with. Saturn in Aquarius is holding that frequency of showing us where we're meant to go, where we can go, but there's effort required. We have to put in the time, energy, and concentration to make something happen. Saturn is often a denser energy, and it brings us back into the 3D matrix of what we have to take care of, what we're responsible for. So here we have this big energy surge of release, change, evolution, and then each of the planets in Scorpio squares this Saturn in Aquarius at 18 degrees. And this Saturn doesn't have emotion, isn't holding anything in the fear body. In fact, what I'm feeling around this Saturn in Aquarius is that the energy is really clear. There's a certainty here. There's something that's known. And I'm even seeing the energy of the crystalline body becoming more active, more alive, based on what you have cleared out, based on the density that you have released. So we have this interesting energy signature with Saturn in Aquarius, where there is a deeper connection to why you're here on the planet and where you're going now and next after all the deep healing, all the deep clearing work you've been doing. And that Saturn is meeting up with this Scorpio energy that is dealing with our fears, that's dealing with our emotional energy field and showing us what parts of ourselves need more transmutation and more work in order to be lighter. And once that has been shifted in a way that's significant and clear for you, then Saturn in Aquarius is a pause, as that energy squares Venus, Sun, and Mercury in Scorpio, there is a pause and a sense of come back into your power, come back into what you're really here to travel with, especially for the long term. Saturn in Aquarius is the long term, and it's almost like there's this checkpoint where Saturn is saying, you don't need to take all this baggage with you. You don't need to take the past with you. All this emotional wounding or these fears or these parts of yourself that you've been spinning in or swirling in, and it's just been perhaps even obsessive, like the overthinking, right? The sense of, how am I going to figure this out? What's the next step? What am I going to do? Who can I trust? Who is trustworthy? Scorpio can hold those energy imprints of where there has been betrayal, manipulation, power plays, and dishonesty. And there can be a sense here of showing you that it's time to reset some of those patterns. It's time to look at, is that really true? Is that really an energy that you're going to engage with, or that you want in your life, or you want in your world? So there is something about this week that has a seriousness to it around how you're going to create your life next, what you're going to take forward, and what you're releasing, what you're owning in yourself around how you've used your energy, you've used your intuition, your emotions, your needs, meaning very honest conversations with ourselves about what we've done or not done. I feel like this is a pattern breaker energy. There's something that's meant to shift, and it's meant to shift at its core. It's foundational shifting, but it's where there has perhaps been that resistance to growth, or a fear, like big fears coming up that you're coming into contact with or acknowledging, and the universe isn't wasting any time. It's almost like, no, you don't get 5 weeks to just be in this. You get 5 days and then we're moving on. So there's a pace increase here. There's a sense of, if you drag your feet, you're really going to miss the train. And that's free will. And the universe honors all forms of free will, because at every place in our journey, there are new manifestations to be had, new things that can show up. But this is an increase in the energies. This is an acceleration of your growth. It's happening during eclipse season. And it means the more you're able to work with fast changes, the higher and better the energetic manifestations will be. In other words, the universe is here to support us in what we're letting go of. And then you could have some fast energies coming in or coming through that validate the changes you've made. But if you're dragging your feet, if you're resisting, if you're stubborn, if you're not getting on board, then the universe honors that and says, okay, you're where you're at, you're using your free will, it's all good. And this is what you will experience in this energy field. So it's not as if there's any form of punishment. It's more about, what do you want in your life? Because we are in a powerful eclipse portal. This is a powerful portal of transformation and change. And when we have a willingness to go on the ride, a willingness to allow the energy to direct us from a place of trusting ourselves, that is where beautiful new developments can show up in the new timeline that you're choosing. It's also interesting to note that Mars in Gemini is now retrograde, and that means Mars in Gemini is needing to slow it down, slowing down our daily life, slowing down our communications and what we're saying and what we're thinking, slowing down how we would normally proceed ahead. Mars in Gemini has to walk it back to where you were, rethink it, consider it with greater mindfulness, and understand that there might have been some things that you overlooked, some details or information that you didn't have the first time. This Mars in Gemini is in mutual reception right now with Mercury in Scorpio. And what that means is that Mars is in a sign that Mercury rules. Mercury rules Gemini, and Mercury is in a sign that Mars rules. Mars rules Scorpio. So mutual reception means that Mars and Mercury are essentially helping each other, but it's an odd combination because Gemini and Scorpio don't have a lot in common. There isn't any kind of synergy there. But what I am feeling around this is that because there's an emphasis on Scorpio energies, what we're being guided to do is trust our feelings. Trust where you're feeling something within you that perhaps the mind is trying to figure out, is trying to sort out. What do I do about this? How do I say this? What are my next steps? And here we have this Mars in Gemini who has to walk it back, who has to slow down and be very intentional with his words, his communications, what he is really taking care of every day. There could be a reassessment here of your priorities where you're understanding that you want to live your life with some different things in place. But this Mars in Gemini, as I said, is not very strong and is also in a square to Neptune and Pisces, another water sign. We have strong water energy right now, which is your intuition, what you're feeling, what is pulling at you, where you're being pulled towards something or something is opening up in you and you don't logically understand it. It's not rational. It's what you're feeling. I feel like this is a beautiful spiritual growth period where not only do we have these 3 planets in Scorpio, the South Node in Scorpio, but we also now have Jupiter returning to Pisces, where Jupiter is beautiful in Pisces, is alive and free and expansive. We call it being exalted in Pisces. And then we have Neptune in Pisces as well. So this is a period of spiritual growth that could feel like a really big spiritual test. And I personally don't see it as a pass or fail test. It's more about testing what you're trusting. Where are you trusting yourself? Where are you trusting the next steps? Where are you trusting that you are supported by the universe in beautiful ways that maybe you can't fully see, but that's part of how we're growing through our spiritual selves. And in fact, what comes from the spiritual tests will show up in only a few weeks, potentially 1 to 2 weeks, because after each of these planets in Scorpio moves through this intense T-square, this is a T-square configuration, then each planet is going to trine Neptune and trine Jupiter and Pisces and is going to see something show up that validates what you are feeling. A T-square means that these 3 fixed astrological signs are each being activated. So as I said, you have planets moving between 13 and 18 degrees of Scorpio, opposing Uranus and the North Node in Taurus, and squaring Saturn in Aquarius. So this is called a T-square. And what we do when there's a strong T-square is we look at what's missing. And it's similar to a table only having 3 legs or a chair only having 3 legs. You're missing 1 leg. So what is that 4th component that's going to support the energy? And in this case, it's Leo. And it's about you can always recreate. What are you going to create next? What's going to bring you new life? What's going to show you where you're inspired and motivated? And that Leo energy, because it's so strong in self-expression, artistic energies, and also your solar plexus and your heart chakra, this is where you want to tune in and know that even if it feels like a lot is leaving, transitioning, or changing that feels out of your control, you're going to be able to recreate something that's even better for your energy, that's even better better for your heart, even better for your sense of self, perhaps in fuller alignment with who you are and what you need. So we're just moving through this intense cycle, basically of simplifying. We're simplifying our energies. And that leads me to this Taurus Lunar Eclipse happening on November 8th. It is at 16 degrees of Taurus, and I do have a separate video for you on YouTube that talks through the energies even more, that goes into the specifics. And Monday's podcast, I'm going to focus on these energies as well. So Monday, we'll go into the Taurus Lunar Eclipse and talk about what is happening for us at this time. But essentially, over this next week, there's things that are meant to shift and change. And the Taurus energy is giving us some downloads and illuminations of where we're truly worthy and ready for the changes that are waiting for us. And again, these are changes or decisions or issues or things in your life that you've already been aware of. Maybe it's new, but this energy has already been in play, especially since May, June, July, and August of this year. So it's not necessarily new, but the universe is reinforcing your knowingness. There's something you know. There's something you're feeling and sensing. And if you trust that, if you go to the wisdom of the knowingness, it almost blasts away any complexities or anything that has been too complicated or messy. The universe is reminding us with this Taurus lunar eclipse that the next steps are activated, the next steps are opening, and the next steps are directly tied to your frequency of knowingness about whatever has been happening within you. So if there's been something you've been feeling or wrestling with for most of this year, this eclipse is activating and applying that pressure of what you're ready to open up to next. In fact, there could be something that shows up that is the evidence or the proof of that knowingness. A lunar eclipse is a full moon. Every full moon is when the moon is the brightest in the sky. It's very energetic, very potent, and there could be something here that you can't deny to yourself any longer. This is also an eclipse of big surprises, big developments, things happening out of the blue, perhaps even something developing that catches you off guard, and ultimately it's right on time. It's something that is meant to flourish, build, and grow. Those are each keywords for Taurus energies. This energy, it also could be something like surprise pregnancies or shocking news or someone's announcing their big life change. This can also be breakups and things that you don't want to participate in anymore. This is where you could just be like, I've had enough. This is too much for me. So wherever you've been at energetic capacity, this is where you could have some realizations. I don't want this anymore in my life. I don't need this. This is too much. This is too intense. I want simplicity. I want harmony. I don't want any more confusion. And I'm going to make some new choices that support exactly what is true for me, exactly what I value. And I'm also going to do it peacefully. And to be honest, it could be a little bit tougher to find peace with all these big energies moving around. But that is something we can still hold. And it's certainly something that your higher self and your soul are holding for you, even amongst this intense eclipse season portal. So your soul and your higher self are maintaining an equilibrium, maintaining a solid, stable frequency. And that could be something that you tune into. In fact, I'm getting the image right now that if you're feeling very scattered or overwhelmed, if you're feeling like there's a lot happening, you don't know what to do, and it just feels emotional or big, whatever it might be, you can visualize the energy from that soul frequency or higher self being beautifully downloaded into all 7 of your chakras. And this is so supported with both Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, connecting to the higher realms. We have easier access to those downloads, to those messages and how they support us. And you could feel the energy coming through and being very soothing, very comforting, very calming. And that could be a simple visualization you do if something gets triggered or is emotionally big or energetically big. You call in that beautiful, loving, compassionate frequency from the Pisces realms to help you navigate whatever's coming up and remaining in your power, trusting yourself, and understanding that you can make choices and decisions from a place of peace if that is your intention. I'm also feeling like it's important to remember everyone's energetic sovereignty, meaning everyone is responsible for themselves, their energy, their choices, their thoughts, what they're doing, what they're choosing. And we each do so based on our own level of consciousness. This could be a week where you have to make some hard decisions or have some uncomfortable conversations. This is a time when you have to be very honest with yourself, perhaps around your finances, around your investments, around what is working, what's not working. This could be a time when you have to let things go, and it could feel emotional. It could feel disappointing. You could have to make some decisions that just feel like they sink your energy, and that can suck. And I'm just being honest with you because there's just times in our lives when we have to be honest and say, okay, this isn't working, or this isn't playing out, or I'm not getting an ROI here. I'm not getting a return on my investment. This is financially weighing on me. There's an intensity with this energy. And in fact, the Scorpio Taurus axis in astrology is about finances, is about our money, the money we make, the money we spend, where we invest and where we retract. And so it could be that you're taking stock of some things and you're understanding what is no longer correct for you, what feels too risky, or where you're even living outside your means. And that's just coming up right now because that can be an unconscious habit of some kind. And you're seeing, okay, wow, the bills have gotten too big. The credit card balance is too much. I've got to sell some things. I've got to let things go. I've got to put some things on Facebook Marketplace or wherever you sell things, because this is an energy, again, of letting go, of taking stock of what is working, what's not working, and understanding that the more you let go right now, the better off you're going to be, the better the universe is going to support you with next steps, and the more room and space you'll have for what's going to come in next. Also remember that throughout 2021, we had this square between Uranus and Saturn. They're still in that tight square here in November, but it begins to ease up as the year closes out. So it's almost like there's something we're deciding and we're knowing we have to get rid of that has been around perhaps since last year. And maybe you've gone back and forth with it. Maybe you've been indecisive. Maybe it was good for a little bit and now it's not so good anymore. So again, it has this pressure and tension to it that could make some choices difficult, but it's only difficult in the moment. And have you ever realized that after you make a choice, make a decision, even though it's really hard, if you feel relief afterwards, that is huge validation. Relief, right? Even if you have to sell something that you really love or you didn't think you'd let go of, but then you let it go and you feel a lightening, you feel that relief, it's validating. It's validating. So even if you're up against some hard decisions or feel like you're in between a rock and a hard place, as soon as you let it go or you make the decision from a place of trust, from a place of trusting the universe, you're saying, okay, I'm going to sell this vehicle. I'm going to let go of this stuff in my closet. I'm going to move some money around that I was saving to pay off this credit card bill. Whatever it is, there is most likely going to be some kind of lightening up and relief. And then you're entering into the next cycle of manifesting, the next cycle of abundance. And that is the emphasis here, because for all the ways we have strong Scorpio right now, in 2023, we have stronger Taurus energy, which brings in the stability of what you're ready to build next. So there will be things that come through that validate what you're choosing, even if it is a hard choice or a hard decision at this time. And as a reminder, I now have for you the 2023 Soul Growth Astrology program available, and it goes through all the major astrology of next year. 8 videos you can watch on demand. The idea is you bring your natal chart and you take a look at what's happening for you in the next year, especially with the Venus retrograde in Leo, the 4 eclipses in 4 different astrology signs. We talk about the big energies of March, where we have Saturn moving into Pisces and Pluto moving into Aquarius. 2023 has the biggest astrological energies since 2020. And 2020 was a big one, right? Well, next year is really significant. So check it out. You can get it for only $33 with coupon code HELLO2023. And I will put the link and information below the podcast so you can go over there and dive into it. So essentially, this is a week of being brutally honest with yourself of how to step into more of your power, more of your creation, and what lights you up by being aware of what is too heavy, too intense, or any of the fears that have kept you paralyzed or held back. This is where there are big changes and there's things that we're ready for. We're ready for the next steps. We're ready to move forward, but we can't take it all with us. So understanding that this is a beautiful opportunity to grow and to make choices from that standpoint could also help alleviate any resistance or stubbornness. And it does come down to your own willingness, the willingness to trust your soul's evolution, the willingness to move towards something that perhaps was previously scary or fearful. But when you approach it from your power, when you are fully powered up and fully 100% battery charged, then you're really understanding how it's all unfolding for your best and highest good, and that the universe is right there with you, and so is your higher self and your soul, and that this is right on time. It's right on time. This is divine timing. So that's my final message. This is divine timing of where you are ready to evolve and grow, to face some fears, to own your power, to trust even more. This is it, and it will pay off. So next week, we'll talk about what transpires after these eclipse energies, as we're going to see some more developments show up that are actually a bit more favorable. So if there's anything this week that is hard or challenging, it does shift as we move through the middle of November. Again, please check out the video on YouTube I have for you discussing the Taurus Lunar Eclipse, and I'll be back on Monday to go more into that energy as well for our Monday podcast. If there are other areas of astrology that you want to dig into in your chart, please check out all of my current astrology programs and courses. They are over at mollymccord.online. I have a lot to offer you to help you understand even how to learn transiting planets in your chart, to learn the astrology of relationships, and to learn how to read your solar return. So please check that out, as I really want to help you in understanding your energy even more and how you're beautifully supported in this lifetime. Thank you so much for connecting with me here. I'll be back, as I said, every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. In the meantime, wishing you a beautiful and brilliant Taurus lunar eclipse on November 8th. And I'll be back here soon, and we'll keep rolling with this astrological journey.